Well, we're going to scrap this episode. We had video and audio problems. Only my video was working and my audio, something was wrong there too. But the conversation's too good. So many gems. Jesse and I will speak about this being the golden age for ADHD. Why chaos? It's not just our biggest struggle. Right now, it's our biggest advantage. So, forgive the technical issues. Hope you can still enjoy the conversation. No, let's join some dots.
All right, Jesse, welcome to the ADHD Positive podcast. We are ADHD Positive. This is episode number 3. So it's a real honor for me to have you here. And I want you to tell your story, as much of your story as you want to tell, of course. Because it's important. I feel it's important.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, is there any part like you think would be a good start? Like starting from childhood or when I discovered my ADHD? Like, what do you think?
Because I think you've got an interesting story, and because I thought your origin story. I thought you were German, which you clearly aren't, just because you live in Berlin now, and for me, you've got a kind of a German look about you, but it's completely different. So, where do you come from?
Okay, so at the moment we can start from there. I'm living in Berlin, and I've actually had, like many people I found with ADHD, you bounced around life, and I've lived in a bunch of different places. Starting out, I was born in the US, and when I was 7, my family moved to Israel, which I grew up over there. And then I think already when I was 19, I decided I had enough and I wanted to go traveling a bit. And I spent 3 years traveling the world. I spent some time in Ireland. I spent about half a year there. Then I went to India for almost a year. Then I went back to the US. I lived in California and Santa Cruz. And then I was basically bouncing around from my early 20s. And I've lived in a bunch of different random places. And now I've been in Berlin for almost 5 years, settling down a bit. And I find that this is a common story amongst a lot of people with ADHD, where it's like a restlessness, or part of me, it's not that I don't need a sense of home, you know? I even had an existential crisis around this whole concept. What is home? What is not? But part of me feels in a way also more comfortable living in different places, or living here for a year and there for a year. It's starting to calm down a bit more the older I get. I just turned 40 this year. So I'm starting to appreciate a little more stability. But there's this kind of, I don't know if it's like an adventure or a need for change, which has led a lot of my life, I would say.
Yeah, I suppose it's maybe the hyperactive part is, you can't sit still. You can't be in one place for too long. It's the same as me. Like I've lived in Austria for 26 years now this year, but I've always been other places. Like if I'm sitting here for more than a couple of weeks, I get this massive urge to leave, and that's how my professional life has been. So I've been all over the place.
Like you decide just to leave like for a week or two, or do you feel like you need like a change?
No, I just need a change. So the past couple of years, I was working in Hanover in Lower Saxony in Germany, so not that far from you. I spent years in the North Sea. Yeah, I just need a change of scenery. In German, there's a really good expression. It doesn't make so much sense in English. It says, you got bumblebees in your bum, or maybe up your bum. I don't know. Yeah. So that, you're always on the move.
You can't sit down because, And do you think that, so when you feel like you have to move, is it more like as an adventurous, or just curious or bored? Or is it also tied into, I'm afraid to settle down, or I'm afraid to put the roots in?
No, it's definitely not that at all, because I'm very rooted here. I've got 3 kids here. Do you have kids?
I don't have kids, no. But I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's... it gives you a much higher purpose, so it's good. But no, I just feel the need for change. So I'll go further. You know, like yesterday, I drove for 12 hours just for a 1-hour appointment. You know, I probably could have done it online, but I just needed the change of change of scenery. Yeah. And the rootedness, yeah, like I do have this before I found out that I had ADHD. I just longed for a dog. I've been longing for a dog for years because I just feel like a dog would ground me. It would force me to stay at home and just. It also a higher purpose, I suppose. When the kids are at school, but just ground me a little bit because sometimes the pool. It's annoying. It kind of gets on my nerves. It's kind of like I would like to just maybe just stay at home and watch TV and go for a drink with my mates and stuff. But this structure, this normalness, it bores me. Yeah.
You know, I find also, because I always like to ask myself, because part of me likes to stay. You know, I have a part of me, and this comes out a lot more in like a FOMO feeling. So I like going to different places, but I found, let's say, New Year's. I really don't like New Year's.
Mm-hmm. Okay, why not?
Well, the concept itself is fine. I mean, I feel it does, you know, the whole New Year starting new. I think it's good to stop and reflect on your life, but also it brings a lot of pressure. Now I have to turn into a new me. What have I been doing now? You know, it tends to not be less about, oh wow, reflecting on my year and good job, Jesse. It usually feeds a lot more into. I got to get my shit together and I got to do it now immediately. And then my ADHD brain turns on to like, okay, I have 1 week. You take on too much. In many cases, you give yourself really unrealistic expectations of what you can do. And then when you don't do it, you feel like a failure. Yeah. So you have that kind of mentality on one side. And on the other side, there's this feeling like I have to go out now and celebrate. I have to, because that's what people do. And if I don't do it, then there's something wrong with me. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Throughout my life, I've always felt guilty. Everyone's, Jesse, come out. And so I would come out. But actually, I realized that I don't think I ever liked the big crowds. I like sometimes going to a party, but it's more like when I need to dance and meditatively. I like to go to maybe bars when you can hear people and talk to people. I always found that a lot more interesting, even in my 20s, than like hardcore partying all the time. And then I also had this feeling that like, I should be wanting to do it more, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I think that kind of pressure is something that's always led, like the debate between I should be changing now, I should want to be going out, I should be more social, telling my brain a lot of the time what it should be doing and what it shouldn't be doing. And if I was feeling overwhelmed, there was something wrong with me. Or, you know what I mean? So it's like feeding into this idea of constantly telling myself. And that's why coming back to what we were saying, I always ask myself right now, do I really want to be going out? Or do I feel like I'm already used to the fact that I need this constant change, which is part of me. But I also speculate, am I really looking and itching and adventurous and wanting this change? Or am I actually running away from something else in myself and trying to distract myself? Yeah.
Okay. Whew. Yeah, oh God, I wish you hadn't said that just now. That just puts a whole new layer of complicatedness on everything. I'm going to start analysing this too now. Oh, no.
Each one, you know, I can speak from my own experience. And yeah, it's...
Berlin, it's a wild. Is wild a good description for Berlin? It's a bit different, huh?
Well, I used to think Berlin was everyone thought it was the most party wild place because I actually, my younger brother moved here about 15 years ago. And I would come every summer for 2 months to come party and go to festivals. And the people I would meet also were usually party people. Because my brother at the time, it's my younger brother, and he was an artist. And so I thought everyone was like that in Berlin. And only when I moved here, so I moved here at the beginning of COVID. And then I realized it's a humongous city. It's not just a party city. And in many cases, it's just a fraction of it. So yes, it's a very unique place. Unfortunately, I would say it is changing. It's not like what it used to be. I would say, but pretty much like everywhere else. But I think it's a really unique city, and it's still very artist friendly. And you can always find something interesting to do here.
Yeah. So you think it's becoming a bit more conservative?
Yeah, look, again, I don't feel like I'm the right person to be talking about it because I don't know. I mean, there's the whole history of Berlin, first of all, being such a unique city, the split, I mean, from after, the Cold War, and the Berlin Wall coming down, but also being a home for artists, being like a sanctuary and having like people like David Bowie and then creating this whole underground scene, techno and squatters. And so there was that whole aspect to it, which is unfortunately, I would say, getting also more and more lost in general. Berlin was always like a haven for the artists, and now this is also changing due to like, capitalism and gentrification. I don't know, the just it's same stuff. They're putting up more buildings. They're creating everything's getting way more expensive over here. It's getting overpriced.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty much like everywhere else. Um, Saying that, I haven't really been in the art world for a long time. I started out as a filmmaker before I got into the field of therapy. I started as a filmmaker, but actually the last 13 years, I really shifted from creating movies to working with people using videotherapy. So video as a tool to also analyze yourself, using it as a mirror tool, or filming and watching yourself after and analyzing your own emotional reactions, but also creating movies in order to deal with different experiences. Like, yeah. And then and then I got into the more like working with ADHD. And yeah, so I'm just saying that I feel like part of me can't really talk now in the name of Artists of Berlin because I kind of also, I went into a whole different field. Yeah.
Yeah, you're in a different scene now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah, so you just speaking there, therapy, filmmaking, video therapy, ADHD. So, okay, that's a nice. You can see the journey there. It's an interesting journey. I don't think I've never heard that journey before.
Yeah, it's very ADHD. I would say I had a very reverse career path. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you go from making films to video therapy? What's video therapy?
Okay, yeah. So basically, I was bouncing around, till my early mid 20s, and then I decided, okay, look, I got to start doing something with myself. So I went to film school, and I did 4 years of film school. I specialized. I majored in directing and editing. I was also doing a lot of documentary. And at the same time, I was having an existential crisis of like, what am I doing with myself? Who am I? I know now a lot of the things that were creating this were this unrecognized ADHD. And
yeah, okay.
I was diagnosed when I was 16, but I didn't believe it.
Right.
Always wondering, why am I starting things and I'm not finishing it? Or I get really excited about something, I tell everyone, and then I don't follow through, or I get too nervous about it, or one day I have motivation, one day I don't have motivation. And inside I was telling myself, you're just so lazy. What's wrong with you? On the other hand, I was really kind to everyone else and loved listening. And I was getting, throughout my life, I had depressions, but this was one of my worst, if not the worst, around age 24. And I felt like no one could really understand me. So what I started doing is I took out my phone and I started filming myself talking to the camera and watching it right after.
Okay.
And that was almost immediately, I was like, whoa. So I started noticing when I was lying to myself. I'm like, yeah, you're just so lazy. I'm like, this doesn't look like someone who's lazy. This looks like someone who's lost. And I saw myself in second person,
Yeah.
And
so,
no, sorry, yeah.
No, it's okay. It just kind of makes sense. There's so much going on inside our heads that we can't see what's going on, and just to see it. Yeah, it sounds sensible. It makes sense.
Yeah, and it's like we're not objective, and in many cases most people are so much better to other people than ourselves. Ourselves we're criticizing about everything, but anyone else you put what Gabor Mate calls them like double standards. It's okay for someone else to screw up or be tired, have a day off, but if I do it, how could I do it? I'm lazy. And we have these things also imprinted. And, I think we live in a society that teaches us to be ashamed of our thoughts, teaches us to be ashamed of our bodies and what we do. And there's a very specific right way in order to get you to buy more and produce more. This is for everyone. But with ADHD, you have an extra layer to that because you're also not picking up on certain social cues, or you.
What kind of social cues? What do you mean?
Well, a lot of the things that I have been experiencing in my life when I was young, particularly, is feeling like I'm too much for people. So if I get too excited or I get too talking, everyone's like, okay, this is too much. Or I'll be like too quiet, and everyone's like, Jesse, why are you so quiet? Tell us more. So I was experiencing very strong emotions, but from a young age, you're getting this feedback that what you're doing is wrong, or you're not supposed to be playing, or there's certain cues of society, how normal people act, that you're not necessarily picking up on. And on top of that, in classrooms, I could never learn things in the classroom. So I was always hiding it, because if a teacher says, Jesse, he asks you, and you're like, uh-huh. And you're all the time masking these things. And on top of that, feeling like you're a failure, or feeling like you're getting feedback that if you act this way, that's not okay. If you're too hyperactive, you should be sitting down. A good boy sits down. Or so what happens, you start doubting your own thoughts and your own emotions. And that starts feeding into this lack of self-trust. And what you do is you start internalizing the criticism and saying, stop it, stop moving so much. And then you try to force yourself into these boxes. And when you don't trust yourself, you need to get some kind of validation. And that comes from, you're looking out at other people. So when it comes to recognizing other people, me and what turns out to be the story of many, many people with ADHD is that you learn to be an expert at reading other people and tuning yourself and adjusting to what you feel they could cope with. And I got really, really good at this. So I learned how to get people to like me quite quickly. I also moved around 7 different schools. So I was like a chameleon. I learned how to take out the charming part, to be charismatic, because that started coming out more and more around my teenagehood. But I would beat up on myself when I felt down and hide myself away and say, what's wrong with you? Yesterday you were so outgoing, and today I'm like hiding, because I know this now, but I was using up energy. When you're charismatic, when you're using up energy, you're borrowing energy in many cases, It's like, great, I can go and give a speech, but the next day I'm probably going to be pretty tired. I'm probably going to be worn out, but I didn't have this understanding. So I see this like, what's wrong with me now? Why am I broken today? People are not going to like it. I have to hide myself. And I started bullying this. And on top of that, I spent my whole life being great to people and getting people to like me. So that's where that double standard, I think, really comes from, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you mean you basically became a people pleaser?
100%. I'm recovering. I call myself a recovering people pleaser. I'm still in the process of letting go. Yeah. And for context, people pleaser referring to putting your own well-being after other people, like throwing yourself under the bus whenever someone else, or perceived. Because in many cases, you have no idea what people are thinking, but you think, oh, they might be mad at me if I say no, or I say I don't want to go with them to this specific restaurant, so I'll go there anyway. Or I'll to sacrifice yourself for others' needs, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not good. That does. It costs energy. And what you just said there just now is you're borrowing energy. That's an interesting concept that maybe people aren't aware of. What do you mean by borrowing energy? How can you borrow energy?
Well, I say it like this, basically. And again, I'm not a doctor. I mean, I don't know anything. I know little bits about the like how our bodies work, but it's always looking for something called homeostasis. So to the equal. Now, it's basically, so if we use a large amount of energy on one day, the body is naturally going to need to replenish it, or to look for the equal. And so a lot of the time, I think this is also part of the ADHD. You're not aware that, okay, now I'm feeling good. Now I'm using a lot of energy. A lot of the time I feel like when I'm in the zone and I'm getting stuff done, I need to get as much done as possible, because tomorrow's a gamble. Tomorrow I could get done a million things today, and then tomorrow I could get nothing done, And anyone with ADHD knows this. It doesn't matter how upset you get at yourself, doesn't matter. And that's just, it's part of the way your brain works. And one of the ways, if you're using up a lot of energy, it really feeds into that next day, because a lot of the next day, the dealing with being down or dealing with yourself on a lower day, that also takes a lot of energy. It takes mental energy. And you still have to do stuff. So on those days, I always like to do absolute bare minimum, to recognize that I'm having a down day, saying, okay, what is the bare minimum that I need to do today? And then on that, add shit tons of compassion as much as you can. And anytime I'm getting like, oh, you're a failure, because those thoughts are going to come.
Yeah.
Remind myself that's not true. And I keep saying to myself, just because something feels real doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just coming back to what I was saying about the video. So I'm videoing myself in an existential crisis. And suddenly I'm like, wow, I see myself in second person. And I had a lot more compassion. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just also some lost person trying to figure my shit out in a world that doesn't make sense. And that, on top of understanding my psyche better, I started having this sense of compassion. And that was really the beginning of me developing a strong friendship with myself, which led into me developing this into a technique, which I called emotional consulting. And this was my first using video as a therapeutic tool. And my mother's a therapist. So I kind of apprenticed with her. She taught me how not to, I always said, I'm just an emotional consultant. I'm not a therapist. I learned, she helped supervise me in the beginning. And then I discovered there's a whole field called videotherapy, which is more taking a group of people or working one-on-one and creating a video with them. So they write a script. Let's say they're dealing with the loss of their grandma. Okay. So they can write a script about it. It can be a fiction or not. And we can make it, and they're doing voiceovers and adding images, or you can get people to act it out. And that's like just a kind of art therapy process. So I went to study that. And then only during COVID did I officially get certified in the type of therapy that my mother does, in narrative therapy. 10 years after I started really basically using it, because I kind of apprenticed with her. And then after I got certified in it, I started putting myself on these different therapist websites, like It's Complicated or, BetterHelp, these kind of, and being diagnosed myself with ADHD when I was 16. And over the years, I was also teaching. I worked with a lot of, special ed. I put that when I work with ADHD is one of my niches. And then almost immediately, 95% of the people who reached out to me were all ADHD. So this was like 2021. And then I just really dived into it and I pivoted. And I was working mainly one-on-one therapy. Then over the last year or so, I also started doing more coaching around my own methodology. And then, now I'm I call myself an ADHD specialist because I offer both therapy and coaching. And I'm branching out now to also doing more group work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, lovely. Did you do online or live or both, or?
Yeah, I was doing mainly now it's online, I would say. Yeah. I used to do some more in person, but I realized there's a lot of benefits also, but online, particularly with ADHD.
Yeah.
Because look, you have also the person close up. Okay. You see everyone's like super close up. As a business, people with ADHD tend to also be very late,
Yes.
And if it's just online, okay, but it's also, if it's in person, it's like, it's a whole different,
Yeah.
But I really like working in person, and I would say, I'm going more to that. And actually, I love being in front of crowds more and spreading this idea, the idea, kind of what your podcast is all about. Like, I believe that ADHD is just a different type of brain. It has its challenges, but it has a lot of benefits. And, I also believe the basis of narrative therapy, which says each one of us is the expert of our own life. So what's right or wrong for you, and I know what's right or wrong for me. I don't know what's right or wrong for you. I can say, hey, maybe it's this, we can figure it out together. But in the end of the day, you're the one who really knows what's right or wrong, and you hold the keys to finding those solutions because you see the world through your own eyes. And it's important for me to go out there and help people return self-agency. I think that's something that I really feel that once you strengthen your self-trust, then everything else gets better.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And how do people gain more trust in themselves?
I mean, first of all, it's different. So my methodology is based on 4 pillars. It's based on boundaries, learning how to understand what your boundaries are, and then also how to communicate that, not only to other people, but also to yourself. You mentioned it before, I think, the idea of setting yourself certain goals or setting yourself certain ultimatums, I guess, or like things that you need to do, because if you don't do it, then you feel like everything falls apart. So it's like about boundaries. It's about emotional management. I don't, a lot of people call it emotional dysregulation. I'm not crazy about this term because I think it's not just about dealing with the challenging emotions or learning how not to spiral in your fears and anxiety, but how to enhance or harness the energy of your excitement. If being very excited can be horrible on a first date. Oh my God, yeah, you don't want to tell someone you love them, even if you're feeling it on the first date, be like that. But if you have to convince a whole room to invest in your new entrepreneurial project, and you come and you envision, and then you get everyone all riled up and excited, then they can, you can find a lot of investors that way. So emotional management is about understanding your emotions and how to like use them, as well as understand them as signals. The third part is systems, personalized systems. You have your own systems, okay? Most of the systems out there are not going to work for you. If anyone tells me, or almost everyone with ADHD, you have 7 days to do something, every single day do a little bit, and on the last day check it over, that system has never worked for me. But most of my life, before I realized it, I was feeling bad about it. Every day I would feel worse and worse because I was pushing things off, and I'd feel guilty. I feel like, oh my God, I'm a failure. The last day I would get everything done because my hyper focus kicked in. And then I would feel like, oh, like a failure. And I'm like, this always happens to you, yada, yada, crap. That inner voice would say it. What I just learned to do is that I have my own systems, and it's always been that way, that I do things at the last minute. So what happens if I just reshaped my life around the last minute and got really good at being spontaneous about it and just taking out this guilt around it? So that 6 days I do whatever I want. The last day, take a bunch of caffeine, get it done, and the day after, you go and do whatever you want. And not only did that make my life better, because great, it's a lot nicer, and it's helped save so much energy, because I find that the biggest waste of energy and what causes really most of the problems to your self-esteem is this idea of I should be doing it this way. It creates this internal battle, and if you take it out, then you have so much energy to focus on the actual thing.
Yeah. So pretty much most of us probably feel that way. What is that feeling? How? Well, you said we waste so much energy being disappointed. Well, disappointed, I suppose, is the description there. But you said disappointed that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But the feeling that evokes is, how would you describe that feeling?
Well, the feeling of a failure, but that's evoked by a belief. You weren't born feeling like you're a failure for what you do. Babies aren't born that way, right? They cry, they scream, they take what they want. You're taught, and we live in a society of rules, it's like, it is, but a lot of these systems, it's actually asking myself, why am I feeling a failure when I don't follow this system that never worked with me to begin with?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You can look back and say, I was taught this. Okay, the teacher says this is how you do things. Okay, everyone else seems to be able to do it. Another thing for me, I make lists. It's hard for me to follow a list. When I was a filmmaker, I can give me a set of 20 people, tell the lights, tell the actors, tell the camera, 20 people spontaneously what to do for 12 hours, no problem. Make a list the day before of 5 shots that you want. Do I want it closer to... For me, my brain starts melting and I push it off and I don't know and I can't make this decision. Because part of what I realize is that my brain works really, really well in the moment, in a crisis, in spontaneity. And when I have to plan ahead, it causes me a lot of anxiety because there's so many options and what if it's the wrong thing? And that's just part of the way my brain works. But I was always blaming myself for not being able to prepare better. Yeah. And that is something that I learned, because that's what people do. And I don't think out of a malicious way. It's not like society's trying to sabotage. Most people's brains work that way. They feel better, prepare each day, think about it, okay, practice, think about it, and it will come out better. For me, it doesn't work that way. For me, it's anxiety. I can't practice. Maybe I half-ass practice. I force myself to do something and I'm like, in my mind, kicking and screaming. And then I get it done anyway in the last minute. So it's really about understanding that it's okay that you're working different. And this is why I say personalized systems. You have your systems. You wouldn't be where you were. You wouldn't be sitting over there in that really nice house with 2 microphones. You have gotten to where you are today, right? Regardless of whatever. So you're doing something that's working. And each one of us has our own systems. So if you say, look, it's great to hear other people's ideas. I'm going to audit it based on my own system, because your brain, you're unique, man. All of us as people are unique, but with ADHD also, it's a total spectrum. So what works for you, one trait that works for you isn't going to necessarily work for me, and that's fine. And it's really about understanding what's working for you, trusting that you know what's right or wrong for you, trusting your intuition, trusting your thoughts, trusting your emotions. You don't have to always agree with it, but you need to trust it. And through those ideas, you can integrate the good parts of other people's systems and then throw away what doesn't work. And that's what it comes, that's what I'm saying. The problem is not the systems. You know, you've been tailoring systems your whole life, whether you acknowledge it or not, or are aware of it, okay? You've been managing your emotions in certain ways, you know? If you have a family and you have kids, you know how to have a relationship one way or another. You know how to get a job. So you're doing these different things. It's just about acknowledging it. And instead of feeling like you're constantly kicking and screaming and surviving and fighting with this voice saying that you're not doing it good enough, it's trusting that you know how to do it. And I'm not saying it's snapping your fingers, but the first part of it is really understanding that you've been brainwashed, you and everyone, by a society that's super broken, okay? On top of that, in this broken society, there's an extra layer. It's people telling you your brain is broken because it's not functioning the way 85%, or is it 85% of the neurotypical people's brains do. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but it's really understand that and then start basing it on the balance, strengthening boundaries, emotional management, personalized systems, building self-trust, or BEST, the best way to live free, the best way to live free. If you want an acronym. Yeah.
There you go. That's easy. Yeah. Remember that. Yeah. And the people that you're working with, where are they geographically?
Well, at the moment, because it's online, it's in different places. It's from Europe. I have a few in the US. I work with people sometimes in Asia, but I would say mainly Europe. I mean, Europe and UK. At the moment, because also I do, when I meet people, you know, live. Anything I do live, it's either in Germany or in, like, if I'm traveling somewhere. That's the idea. And what I'm working on now is also I'm working on creating more content and getting out these ideas, because also a lot of the people I work with, I'm don't need to understand more about ADHD. In many cases, there's so much stuff around there. I think the main issue, again, is not that you need to understand more about who you are. It's about trusting, you know? And that's it. And I think it's something, it took me a long time to understand that, because everyone wants to be more focused. Everyone wants to be less procrastinate less. You know, there's all these different ideas, you know, around how I should be acting or how I should be more productive. But in many cases, you know, you're probably not going to get much better at these things that you're not good at. Okay? If you're not good at prioritizing, you're not going to be great at it. You can get a little bit better. But the idea is, what is this pressure that you're putting on yourself that I have to now be the best prioritizer, as opposed to saying, I'm not so good at it, but actually there's this new AI which can help me prioritize much better. I just have to stop feeling bad about it. Or hire someone to do that, you know, you can outsource it, and for 10, 15, 20 bucks. Yeah. Hire a virtual assistant to take off this load. And there's a million solutions, and the ADHD brain is wired to solve problems, you know, which is a whole other topic. But I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are, you know, as someone with ADHD, hearing some of these things. Like, is there anything that stands out for you?
Yeah, well, something to try and understand it from your point of view is, you said the acceptance. So you said you were diagnosed when you were 16, but you didn't believe it, or you didn't accept it. So when did you start accepting it yourself? I mean, that's a really, these are one of these things, these good epiphanies that when you look back, you go, shit, if I just accepted it when I was 16, maybe things would have been better. But I suppose it's this process of not accepting and going through all the dirt to bloom at the end. So what was the resistance? Why didn't you accept it, and how did you come to acceptance?
So I would say in the beginning, the resistance it really fell on this idea that I didn't think my brain was broken. Inside the name, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. Okay, it's a horrible name, and it's super misleading. It doesn't, it's not true, you know, and people don't agree with that. And I respect everyone. Each one is your own expert of their own life, but it's not, if we just break that down, you know, to the fact that, first of all, it's not that I have my attention disorder. I have attention. If you hyperfocus, you can hyperfocus a lot of different things. If I'm in a classroom, it's not that I'm not focused. I'm not focused on what they're saying because I'm focused on everyone around me. I'm wired to be talking. I'm telling jokes, okay? Or if the teacher starts talking to me, I'm either like petrified or I start looking over there. I'm like looking at her hair and I'm like, oh, wow, her hair. I'm like, oh, my hair. I need to get a haircut. And you start analyzing all these different things. And I'm like, oh, what? And then you're like, oh, what was she saying? What were they talking about? And so your attention is in many different places. It might be bouncing to different things, but it's not like a disorder. You know, it's just a different way of thinking or a deficit. Yeah. It's just like there's so many elements in there that you're starting out from a minus, from understanding that. So you have a choice over there. You can say either I accept the fact that my brain is broken or I deny it. You know, and this is what it's been till now. And I think it's just been really misunderstood. So when I was 16, I was like, look, I took the second option, which I'm happy about, saying like, okay, they're crazy. I still wanted to get, you know, different benefits on my tests. So I had more time, you know, just to pass everything. But, and they gave me Ritalin, which helped. It helped. I want to say also for me, they helped in specific situations. I just want to say, I'm not promoting Ritalin. In certain places, it could help, and I'm happy to talk more about my own personal experiences. But whoever is listening to this, go to a medical professional, consult with them. Don't, you know, I think it's very important to always have someone over there talking with you, someone who knows you, and yeah. But it did help me. But I always had this mantra that I'm just doing things my way. And I was constantly fighting against the stream in many cases. And I had a lot of different jobs. I couldn't really hold down many jobs because I have a problem with hierarchy, you know, of not saying my mind. I was, okay, we start working. And within 2 days, I'm giving them advice. Wait, maybe this could be better. Maybe we can do this over here. And I would get this reaction. They would say, Jesse, you're a really nice guy, but we've never had a worker. What are you doing? What are you telling your boss? What's right or wrong? Even if you're right, like, what are you doing? I'm like, I couldn't really compute that. I could understand it, but I was like, whatever, I'll find another job. So I was independent, you know, from a young age. And it's just like fighting against the stream. But I had a lot of these elements of like starting and not managing to finish it and putting a lot of pressure on myself and putting this idea, I have to do everything on my own. And like for days writing copyright on a website, and the website had to be perfect, and putting a lot of stress on myself to do things that I'm really not good at, you know? Yeah. And I was working 2-3 times as hard as most people do and getting like half of the things done, and then feeling shame about it, you know, and having to live on hustle lots. And so I think that also really impacted my self-worth and who I am, because if you try to do everything on your own because you believe no one can help you, because you got this feedback your whole life that no one really understands you, that led me into this mentality of not only taking on too much, but also perfectionism, and also feeling like if I get something out that's not perfect, then people are going to judge me for it more. Yeah. And it took well into my 30s and depressions and, you know, and getting through this to suddenly understand, wait a second. I started understanding more. This is also the time more ADHD content started coming out. I'm talking about almost 10 years ago. And I just started seeing these similarities and connecting the dots and starting hearing other people's stories. So I said, and I think I was just at a place too, and this happens to a lot of people, I guess, around the 30s, you know, the switch. There's the 20s, you know, which is survival, party, needing to do this. And once you hit 30, most cases after also going through like a very difficult transition, you start saying, okay, look, I've been doing things for about 10 years now. I'm calming down a little bit. And I think my brain and this need to constantly fight and prove myself to everyone in the world, which I now know I was trying to prove to myself, because part of me was feeling like a failure, you know. When that started calming down a bit more, I said, okay, look, I started looking into the ADHD, and then suddenly I realized that there are a lot of these traits that many people are experiencing, And that if you just understand that there are some fundamental differences, which aren't good or bad, but like, I'll give an example of like the recall memory. So there's the immediate memory of the last 1 minute. So they say people with ADHD have less immediate memory slots than a neurotypical person, but it doesn't mean anything about your long-term memory or so. I spent so many years feeling like I couldn't understand, or I'm like, there's a problem with my brain, or maybe I partied too much and I screwed it up because I lose my phone all the time, or I'm losing my keys 10 times. But once I learned that, I'm like, okay, that's not such a big deal. If you don't make it a big deal, it's not such a big deal. You tell people around, hey, look, I'm going to probably lose it. I'm going to forget your name. You know, I say, I'm going to forget your name probably the first 3 times you say it. Sorry about it. I feel free to forget my name. Once you acknowledge it and accept it, then you, as opposed to beating up on yourself, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know if that made sense, but once I started understanding these things and I understood how hard I was being on myself, I started strengthening my own self-trust, and then things started opening up. And I was like, wow, the biggest issue, I was so hard on myself, you know? Yeah. And if you've been through depression, if you've been, you know, when you start waking up and realizing how much time you were just beating up on yourself over certain things, which are like, I felt really bad. But that's when the compassion started coming out. And I heard somewhere they say, when anger turns into regret, you know, when you're like being from very anger or like survival into feeling like, oh my God, how many years did I waste? That's usually a good sign. You know, it's not comfortable, but it's a sign that you're waking up and realizing, wow, I spent so many years beating up on myself. And so once I did make that change in my early 30s, I started working more with people. I started really shifting my approach also to be more about helping people get out of this self-blame more than this is going to be a technique to help you be more productive. Because in many cases, you don't need to be more productive. You need to detox yourself from this idea that productivity equals self-worth.
Yeah. Yeah, because what's the opposite of self-worth? It's shame, I suppose, huh?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of shame, and you know, you didn't pick this, you know, and like the world is harsh to begin with, and there's a lot of shame implanted in us. And you know, there's also a lot of it is a whole other topic I won't jump into too much, but the new age belief that I am the one that can change everything if you just think positive, you know what I mean? Then everything's going to get better. It's a belief. It's a belief based on a lot of also consumerism, and also I would say lack of other beliefs.
Yeah, okay.
If that makes sense. Yeah. I don't want it's a whole other topic, but
no, again, come on, no, it's a good topic. You've opened a can of worms here. You've opened a can of worms. Okay, go for it.
I'm very interested. So I used to call myself an atheist. I'm agnostic. I do believe there's all kinds of crazy shit happening. Okay, I just don't know what, and I try not to label it. But till about 100, 150 years ago, in general, whatever religion it was, people were a lot more religious in that sense. And for good or for bad, there's a lot of horrible wars around that. I'm not a big advocate for religion in general, but there was an essence of belief. More like, okay, if I'm poor or or I lose my job or something happens, it's not me, it's the gods decided. Okay, it's not necessarily on me, but what happened is as the world became less religious in certain aspects. Yeah. Again, I want to be very clear. I am not advocating for religion over here. The shame and belief came upon people, and then on top of that, there's this idea that if you try hard enough, if you really put in the work and work hard, you can succeed, which is a lie for most people. Okay. You know, it's a lie sold by capitalism because everything, as you mentioned before, is rigged. And we're seeing that more and more. Everyone's taking the money. You can work extremely hard, especially if you're a minority there's so many places, you know. But the idea is that it puts so much pressure on human beings and us that if I'm failing, even the idea that if you push yourself hard enough, you can succeed, which sounds like a great idea. The opposite of that is if I'm not succeeding, I'm not trying hard enough, I'm a failure. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. And that feeds into this mentality. And on top of that, we're living in a world which is speeding up more and more and more and more. And I can't remember if I was talking about this with you. We're sitting technology wise and speed wise inside like the cooking pot of the frog, where if you boil a frog from cold water, it doesn't notice it. 20 years ago, there was barely like, SMSs and emails. We're talking about like the first SMS was 93. The first phones, like cell phones, the Nokias. I remember it was like around 2000, 2001, we had these big chunky phones. Before that, you had a phone in your house, right? People would call, you're not home. You get back to them the next day. Nowadays, we have the phones, we have computers, we have emails, we have everything, work-wise, corporate-wise. They're expecting you to work 12, 14 hours a day. But friends and family, everyone expect answer, and things have sped up so quickly, that this idea of also, if I want to be productive, I have to be doing 20,000 things a day, which is in many cases against what we were saying, against the human nature, but also with your ADHD brain, it's hard. It can be harder, if you write slower, if you think slower, you have anxiety around sending messages or emails. It's just adding more layers. But what happens is when you can't do it like everyone else is expecting you to do in a world that's constantly speeding up with these things, something's wrong with me because I'm not trying hard enough. And you're getting that feedback in many cases from other people.
Yeah. Yeah. And the success and failure metrics as well, what you said there, they're external. So it's if you're successful, you've got lots of things and lots of money. And if you're not successful, you're poor. You don't have the money. You don't have the things. But really, what about the internal? This is what you're saying. And who's being successful there? Does being successful externally make you successful internally, or does it fuck you up? Does it make you the opposite of successful?
I think that
inside, where it really counts.
Look, I don't think it matters. There's certain external aspects, but if you look at, I don't know, Elon Musk, does he seem like a happy person?
I think he just seems like Elon Musk. I think, yeah.
I'm just saying a lot of these billionaires, they don't seem that happy to me. If I'm not, I think this need, I'm just using that as an example. And there are a lot of people, I think and I have no problem with making a lot of money. Look, I don't know if I need $1 billion. I think that's a little steep, I'm okay with 50 million. I'm fine, but I don't have a problem with that, go for it. But if you constantly need more money for it, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like, you're investing the time, so your hours are disappearing. That's the one currency you can never get back. The money's, maybe your bank balance is increasing, but you look behind you, your wife's getting further and further away. Your kids are getting further and further away. Maybe, your belly's maybe getting bigger and bigger. Your arteries are getting tighter and tighter. I don't know.
Look, I think that's an individual thing. I say if someone is really important to make money, if that's what they want, that's fine. But I think the idea that is what everyone should want is the problem. Some people prefer family. That's fine. Some people like kids and some people don't want kids. And that's also, and it's always been like that. It's not like all these people, the meaning of life is kids. Like I personally, I think it's great and I really want, and I enjoy, I think it's more important many than career. And some people like careers and I have no problem with that. I think though, each one has to stop and say, why am I actually doing it? And there is, I think statistically, the world has never had more depression, anxiety, all these things, because we're living in a system which has taught us in order to succeed, in order to be accepted, you need to be doing something that's important. And this is what I follow. Again, I say, if it's important to you, that's great. I'll give you an example, like LinkedIn, for instance. All over LinkedIn is like, be a leader. A real leader does this. A real leader does that. Come on, no. And I'm like, look, it's good to be a leader. If you want to be a leader, great. But what if you don't want to be a leader? Why does everyone have to be a leader? Also, if everyone's a leader, who's following? And this whole concept, but that's how it should be. Or grow as a person. This is another thing. I think it's important to develop parts of yourself that are important to you to improve or, great. But always grow and become a better version of myself. What does that even fucking mean? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like this endless pit of something that's super vague, telling yourself in a way that what I am now is not enough. It's not like I want to be better at playing the violin, so I'm going to practice every day and see how I get better at that. I want to be, I don't know, spend more time with people who are important to me. So I'm going to get better at stopping and making priorities or listening to them. That's great. But if you keep it as a generalized idea, and I think these things are so subtle and so normal. Another thing is like the healthy way too, ... This is also, if you think about it, I see this as something that can be very destructive, coded in something good. It's not healthy to, I have to now sit and I'm very, very careful with that because it's other people telling you what you should be doing based on ideas in many cases, if you break it down to it, based on some kind of consumerism. Go to the spa, go to Bali, go to my new retreat, relax, figure it out, whatever. And again, I have no problem with improving yourself. I have no problem with anything. Even if you want to be a billionaire and it's really important to you and that's what you want to say, yes, this is going to make me successful, go for it. I highly suggest you do it in a way that's not destroying humanity, but that's that's another topic. But the idea is, after being kind to people, do whatever you want, but know why you're doing it and be very I have what I call the little Jesse that asks why. I imagine a little 3-year-old Jesse being like, why? It's like, oh, I want to go there and I want to speak in front of a whole group of people. Why? Because I want to spread these ideas and help people, live a better life. Why? Because I had it and it helped me out. Yeah, but why is it important to help them out? Because I want them to also. I feel it's meaningful. Why is it meaningful? Because I want people also to hear my ideas, but it's important for me to feel and you break it down. And in many cases, you want to be loved, you want to be accepted. Okay, with money, you want to feel safe. The idea of having money is security. It's having a house. It's having food. There's an understanding behind that, Yeah. But just to keep asking yourself why and breaking it down, and then do whatever you want. I'm not trying to preach not to do these things. I'm just saying know why you're doing it, and it will probably be not only easier, but you'll probably feel better about yourself. And you might find that you're doing a lot of shit that you don't want to be doing based on what your grandma thinks you should have done that was implanted in your mind when you were 8 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Summing that up, know your purpose. Like, let's say, okay, the billionaire, if it's just about the money, it's a probably an empty purpose. It's probably, okay, whether you go into the deep analysis or not, your subconscious, your heart knows that, yeah, it's just a pile of coins. It's just a load of numbers in a computer system. They look good, and I can buy myself a Bentley so that everybody knows that I've got lots of these tokens. But where's the why? That's the why. We need to know our whys. We need to know our purpose, and it's a completely individual thing. My purpose could be, making my kids strong, happy people, hopefully happy people, adults, and another person, it could be their purpose is looking after their cat. Nobody else cares about their cat, but they love their cat, and that's their purpose, and they're happy.
Yeah.
Who are we to judge?
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah, but also I try to also look at not even on such a big level. It's like, okay, do I want to go out? Yeah, why? Because I'm going to enjoy it. Okay, why do I feel like I have to go out when I don't want to go out? And then I'm like, well, because this person might think that. I'm like, okay, why is that so important to you? Because if they think this way, and I'm like, okay, and if they think this way about you, why? And then you're like, oh, actually, does it really bother me that much? Or maybe it does, and that's fine, And I think in general, I like also the idea of like a purpose, but I find that, I feel like my purposes change and like things are changing all the time for me also. And, I think it's a lot about adaptability, which is something that I feel ADHD people are really adaptable. We have to be adaptable and very resilient because you've gone through so many feelings of failure and screw ups and forgetting, you have to bounce back, otherwise you can't survive. And we're living in an age where everything is changing so rapidly, so quickly. I made a little video on YouTube called Why Now is the Golden Age of ADHD.
Yeah, it's a good video. I recommend it to anyone wholeheartedly. It's a good video.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And it's about this idea that we're living in an age now where if you learn to trust your instincts, it's great because, as I mentioned before, ADHDers usually thrive in chaos. Give me an emergency, great. let me sit down for a week with nothing happening and trying to figure out what I need to do and organize my priority. It feels like it can feel like torture, And so if like once you learn to kind of trust yourself more, then you can say, look, what would happen if life is basically around crisis? I mean, this, you spent a lot of time as a project manager, you're good at probably making things happen really quickly and dealing with 100 people's different, and navigating through these different things, because the ADHD brain, as I said, it's really wired for problem solving, which is also a reason why so many entrepreneurs have ADHD. You're constantly looking for what's wrong, and when nothing's happening, you're inventing problems in many cases.
Yeah. So do you think that whatever the starting point is, whether it's God, the universe, evolution, whatever, that many things aren't accidental. There's a reason why there's a male and there's a reason why there's a female. For example, just from a purely biological, let's not get into any gender stuff, woke stuff here, whatever. But we need a male and we need a female to produce offspring, whether it's a plant, an animal, a human, whatever. So do you think that there's that an ADHD brain is intentional, was intentionally designed or intentionally evolved? What do you think? You're saying this is the golden age, but it's probably not new.
Well, okay, so as I mentioned before, I'm agnostic. Like, I'm more like, things are there for purpose or not purpose.
We don't need to go into God or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever the ursprung.
From an evolutionary aspect, I see it this way. Look, if you look at humans before we, started moving into towns and cities, like, 12,000 years ago plus, when we were more hunter-gatherers, an ADHD person, okay, the brain is designed for looking for new things and problem solving. So you're looking for problems. You're probably good at adapting, finding new food, okay? A lot of energy, usually in many cases, good at hunting. You're quite social. So you're talking to people and you're figuring out, these are all traits which are quite beneficial when you're living in the jungles, right? You'd probably be like the top of your clan. So I think part of the brain, I think there's also many different kinds of brains. So it's not just ADHD and neurotypical. I think there's many varieties, which is why I think the world needs all of them in a certain sense, But I think the ADHD brain is really designed to be living in the jungles, to be living outside with animals and nature and creating all these things. And if you look at it that way, then yeah, I think there is a natural development in that, because you can also hyper focus on certain things. And what happened, I think, just with society over the time is that we just became more and more this 5-year plan and looking ahead, because actually things became safer in some places in the world. I'm speaking as a white man, I'm privileged in the Western world. But the fact is, you don't have to worry about starvation so much. You don't have to worry about shelter as much. So now people are with that is like more security. What am I going to do in the future? What's my career? Then you're planning ahead, and then add on all the emails in the corporate world, and what became important, and money, which actually isn't anything. Money is just a concept people invented for value of one thing for another. I mean, if you go to the first lesson in what, economics 101, they say money is nothing. Money is a haircut, Money is an apple. Money, it's just something that you trade based on people's beliefs that it's worth something. But we made that became the new religion, and the stock markets, and then this and that, and that process and the way most of the Western world mainly is working right now is not designed for an ADHD brain, I would say. So I guess yes and no. The brain fits a lot better in the jungles. But there's also the element of, I think it's also needed. And, throughout history, I was just looking at people through history. I could see a lot of traits in people like Otto von Bismarck, the guy who united the German states. This guy was a wild man. By the age of 21, he had done already like 30 duels. Okay. The guy went to law school for 4 years, didn't do anything. And the last week crammed and passed everything. Okay. Yeah. He was like going over there, partying, wild man, and going out at any time. And then he tried again and again and again. He managed to unite Germany because he was crazy, because he had so many, he was restless, dueling everyone, cramming at the last minute, creating some new idea and running with it. That's quite ADHD, So it's like Einstein also has certain traits. He's really bad at most things. His house is all these things, but he's really good in something specific. He might be more on like the ADHD, AUDHD, and autistic, like a mixture. But there's all these people, with a lot of different traits, and many of them were the adventurers or Columbus or all these people who would go out and travel across take crazy risks to the other side of the world because they were bored and they couldn't sit down. There is a lot of value to that, I think.
Yeah, and I think it back to your golden age of ADHD, it makes sense because, okay, so you had the hunter-gatherer, the jungle period, where everything was really wild, and then we moved into the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, where everything was very ordered, it was very structured. So it was like, okay, you need to fit into that structure, otherwise you don't have a place. And then now, it really is a jungle out there. Okay, it's not lions and it's not tigers, but there's so many things going on with Instagram, social media, jobs, the job market, the projects, the lack of security as well. Like most countries here in Europe, the pension age keeps on getting higher and higher. The pension itself keeps on getting lower and lower. So I think really, let's say however many people, the 20% or 15 or 10, however many percent of people have ADHD, again, the golden age, it's like, well, I've never really felt safe and secure anyway. I've always just been surviving. So yeah, let's keep on doing it. And the dots, there are so many dots out there to be joined, to be connected that weren't before. It was like, okay, you're a farmer, you're a butcher, you're a baker. It was very simple then. There weren't that many dots. But now, it's infinite, and
it's totally.
We can create our own worlds now. You can create video. How would you call it? Not video therapy. Emotional. Say it again, please.
Emotional consulting, or the method.
Emotional
my first
consulting.
method.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like I love that because it's like, you're saying now, everything's going and everything with the Instagram, there's so many things happening and people are losing their jobs all over the place. And like, what am I going to do? And for me and ADHD people, it's like, okay, I have to start a new job. It's like, it's just a regular Wednesday, you're just so used to already like trying, didn't work out, do this job. If I think about how many jobs and some I've done over the course of my life, it's like, I can't even count. I've done so many different things until I piece together, and I think part of that is that, resilience. It's also resilience, and also even when we don't necessarily feel it as much, there is a certain trust that you do manage. Even if you do it kicking and screaming and worrying, you manage to bounce back and get things done. And it's something it's like a really good boot camp for the new age, because now it's all chaos. And with AI, every week, everything changes. I was just looking at a friend, they have, with their work, they have like a lower ChatGPT 4.5. And I'm like, wow, that's so obsolete. I'm looking at it as if it's like an old Nintendo from '89. I'm like, you still use that? That's crazy. And that was like, what, 2 months ago?
NES, yeah.
So things are constantly changing. And then if you dive into that, and this is coming back to Daniel Presley, all this stuff, it's constant creating. Because if you just learn how to turn that up, as opposed to what you did, everyone's like, oh, you have to start something and stick with it and try it for a long time. And the ADHD brain is jumping around. We're starting an age now where you can create things so quickly. The fact that you can start this and start this and start this and because AI can do the labor in many cases, and you can do it with one or two other people, it's an extremely great asset. And that's what I'm saying. And I'm out there saying, look, you guys already have most of the things. You just need to start hacking away at these, negative beliefs, or I call them the internalized neurotypical expectations, like INI. So these are internal expectations based on neurotypical ideas. You should be able now to spend a year building this slowly. Daniel Presley, again, I know we're praising him over here because we're in this program, and it's really good that, you're talking about, you don't need a whole audience of people. You just need to find someone who has that audience and connect with them and offer, there's so many ways to get around and to figure out things and to try things. And it's a very exciting time if you can allow yourself to dive into that. It's one of the very, there's so many opportunities out there. And it all starts from starting to believe. You don't even have to, I'm not talking about, just believe in yourself and I love myself and saying, you don't have to, but just saying, look, I've been doing this. The fact is, I've been doing this for long enough. So when this voice says, no, you're stupid, you should be doing differently, say, why? Take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, have the conversation, be compassionate with this part of yourself, because I really believe it's there to protect you also. It's not trying to purposely sabotage. It's based on traumatic experiences that you've been through. It's based on a lifetime of feeling like a failure. It's based on criticism of feeling like your brain is not right. It's there. It's been there for a reason. But just because it feels real doesn't mean it's true. Yeah. And that's what I keep repeating, and to help debunk it, and go ahead and do stuff with it. Don't wait till you're going to solve it. Do it together with it. And then, the last thing I just want to say about that is self-trust is, trust in general is not like, oh, I'm going to look in the mirror, do NLP and be like, I trust myself. Trust is something you build. Like anything else, you have to prove it to yourself again and again and again. And then you feel like you can trust yourself, basically. So don't expect, automatically like that confidence is just going to come. It's okay to do things without confidence, I think. That's my 2 cents.
I think it's a good. So confidence, confidence is key, and confidence is not, like you say, you don't get the confidence by going to a Tony Robbins seminar and screaming at yourself in the mirror. No, it's gaining trust in yourself. Doing the process, making the mistakes and failing in the right direction. I think this is an important thing. I think we need to realize as well is that failure, it's okay, because we're taught in school that failure is not okay. You just keep on trying. If you're failing backwards, not doing it in the first place, that's the biggest failure, I think. Then you're just standing still or going backwards as the world's moving away from you. But if you're going forward, you're making the mistakes, you fall on your face, but you get back up again, and just as long as it's, and then that's the self-trust. It doesn't really, maybe it doesn't matter if you get to that destination, but it's how it makes you feel inside, the belief in yourself. So I think that's one of the things that I think we need is to get rid of this failure and fear of failure. And some of the RSD is rejection sensitivity dysphoria it's not nice. It's not.
It sucks.
It's a nice thing, and it's probably, like you say, reading into things too much.
It's tough, I think, because that one is there. I mean, I have my own experience with it, but it's not like it's like, and I find these, one of the things that I really had to come to terms with is like, you can understand everything. It doesn't mean you're going to stop feeling it. And it's about learning how to work with it. And the rejection sensitivity, it's a tough one because, to recognize also that you're feeling rejected before it even happens. It's it's a process. And also, we talk about the benefits of ADHD, but there are a lot of challenges, and I'm not undermining the extra challenges that come with it, including what you're saying. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria is something that's quite common amongst other people. Just for clarity here, it's the feeling or the perceived rejection that comes even when it's not really there in many cases. If you look at your phone, you send a message, 5 minutes later, they don't answer, you feel rejected. Or you say something and someone's like, okay, yeah, bye. And they didn't have a facial reaction that you thought they should have. You immediately start, oh my God, they think I'm stupid. Start blaming yourself. And they could be just like, thinking about their lunch,
Yeah, exactly.
But you perceive it even when there isn't rejection. And then when there is rejection, that can be like, a spear to the heart. It's like, oh, you didn't get the job. It's like, oh my God, now everyone's going to think I'm the biggest, it's like to really take it. and it's a thing, you know, and it's not like it's just going to go away. That's what I'm saying. I think it's about understanding, and then also just, again, I always come back to the compassion and learning how to be compassionate with myself, because it's very hard, and these things are going to be there. There are going to be disappointed. In many cases, you're disappointing people almost daily with ADHD, because you're forgetting something. You're forgetting their birthday. They're talking about something important, and you space out for a second. There's all these things.
Yeah, that's the worst one, especially when it's for me with the kids. The kids are telling me something, and they go, "Oh, Papa's drifted again." It's like, oh shit, yeah, Papa has drifted again.
And
Yeah.
stuff. How old are they?
Yeah, 16, 15, and 12. Yeah, a girl and 2 boys.
I see.
And yeah, you know, I think understanding that's like one of those things is, I think it makes it easier knowing that it's ADHD. So I had ADHD for 45 years before I knew it was ADHD. Yeah, I just thought I was being a dick, for 45 years. But really, it's like, okay, these things, I can't really help it. I can mask it. I can come up with strategies to make it better. But these are the struggles, and it helps as well, like the people in our environments, that they, understand a little bit. It's better for them too, that, Papa's not ignoring me because he doesn't love me. It's because there's a pinball machine going crazy inside his head, and I said the word penguin, and now Papa's on the South Pole, and
It's difficult. To understand that, but also, you know, it's difficult enough to let them down. In many cases, on top of that, then you blame yourself as if, okay, and these are things that you can't. It's not really under your control as much. You can try to fake it, but the fact that your mind wanders. And they're used to it, because kids, you know, I mean, especially they pick up on it very quickly. So it's not that your mind wandered, you're now a disappointment, or now you're afraid, you know. So there's so many layers upon that, if you think about it. And there's a concept in Buddhism called the second arrow, which is like the first arrow. So in that situation is like, okay, the first arrow is, I disappointed my kid. But the second arrow, which in many cases is much worse, is that the shame and the embarrassment around that. So it's bad enough to feel like you disappointed someone, which is horrible, especially your kid who wants to be talking to you. But then on top of that, I'm always doing this. I never listen. I don't care. What's wrong with you? You know, this extra layer of the guilt and shame, which in many cases, you know, is the hardest part. And if learning how to cope with that better, and learning to understand that you are trying, and your brain has a lot of benefits, but it has these challenges. You know, I find that understanding that and, you know, coping with that is the first part. And then after that, you can be like, you can say to them, hey, look, it's not that what you're saying. My mind did wander, but hey, I'm here. Tell me it again, because I want to hear it. I want to hear why it's important to you. Tell me again about it, you know? And then finding ways to also be more engaged. You know, and then, because basically, you know, and this is kind of like really a good summary of a lot of the things I was saying. Once you take out that shame and embarrassment as much as you can find a lot of solutions. You can start, I'm really sorry. Hey, okay, let's try this again. Oh, why don't you tell me? We can write a little poem about it. You know what I mean? We can create this idea for you, and you can be engaged, because actually what's important over there is not what they're saying. And frankly, it's probably pretty boring. Okay. But your connection with them is not boring, and your care for them, and you're wanting to spend time with them, and you wanting them to feel heard, that is very real, and that's the actual point. And that you can strengthen, because they want to be talking to you, but in many cases they want to be connecting. And you can understand that once you stop feeling like shit about yourself. You know what I mean? Because otherwise you're just spiraling and feeling guilt and falling into that victimhood. Again, not that you're choosing to do it, but it's not that you chose to be programmed like that either. It's through a life of feelings of failure in a society that you live in, but you're the actual only one who can change that. And when you do, then you start improving everything from your relationships to your ability to do stuff, your own self-worth. It all falls into that aspect. And I think, it's important.
Yeah. One more thing, or maybe one and a half more things, just to finish the conversation up. So you mentioned Daniel Priestley a couple of times there, and maybe a lot of people watching this won't know who Daniel Priestley is. So Daniel Priestley, he's the owner, founder of Dent, an organization. We're part of a business accelerator, the KPI, Key Person of Influence Business Accelerator. The reason we are in there is because we want to do good in the world. We want to build businesses that benefit people. So people are going to listen to this and they're going to figure out my story quite well. So, but you want to just tell the people, your mission.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, my mission. So as I mentioned, I'm out there trying to help people with ADHD also make sense of their brain and also learn how to accept who they are. So not only does life not feel like a constant survival mode, but you can start harnessing these things and live a life that's good, mainly because of what I've been through, and I know what it's like to go through life beating up on yourself all the time. And I think that a lot of it just comes down to also bad education, again, coming from society. And that's why I just feel it's very important to speak these things, because it's helped me, because every time I talk about it, I feel more passionate. And I feel like it's important for people to hear this, because particularly in the ADHD world that's coming out now, I feel like people are really just focusing on the what to do to kind of fix it, as opposed to understanding that if you do accept your brain and you do figure out your own systems at that, you can actually live a life of personal agency. You can live on your own terms, and you can live a life that feels a lot more free and help others do the same. And I mean, I enjoy helping people. I like the idea of changing the world, but I'm not a big now I have to change everything. I'm just trying to give out there my life experience and what I've been through, because I think it's important. I think it's important for people to accept who they are. And, and that feeds also into other parts. And what I'm really happy about now with this business accelerator is that I'm learning also how to take these ideas, and I learned to methodize it and create content that I can communicate these things to other people without only having to work one-on-one, because in the end of the day, I think it's a travesty that people are living a life beating up on themselves and feeling horrible. And if I can change any bit of that, I'm honored to do so. Plus, it's kind of fun. It's fun going around and speaking your mind and speaking your ideas and having super interesting conversations like this. It's way better than any other job I could think of. I'm like, okay. So I'm also keeping myself, and there's a big variety around it too. So now we're doing a podcast, and I love my one-on-one work, and I'm doing groups, and I have a free online community that I do also meetings with twice a week, and every 2 weeks. Sorry. And then I also want to go public speak. And, it's just, it really fits in also to the ADHD brain of keeping myself stimulated all the time and bouncing around. And I think that's also important, because the more I started being okay with and trusting myself, I started saying, okay, what anyone else taught me is irrelevant. I'm going to now figure out my own path and what works for me, or what has been working for me. And what do I actually like doing? And I realized I like being spontaneously in places as much as possible. So I'm just shifting my life. I say, how can I do as little amount of administrative work that I hate and be in front of crowds that I like? Being here, having a conversation and seeing what comes up, making a little music video for my channel. These are things that are keeping my brain stimulated. And so, my life is just getting better and better the more I focus on that. Yeah. And it just really comes from that, I know I'm just repeating this again and again, but I've seen how much better life can get. I've experienced this personally. I've been through shit. I've been through addictions. I've been through depressions. I've been at so many things, and I see now how much life better can get. And it's hard not to scream it when you see it.
Yeah. That's a worthy, a noble cause. That's good.
What about you? I'm curious about you. What do you, if same thing reversed?
Well, it's the for me, what I realized is, so I'm different from you in that I really, my intention is to change the whole world. Because what I realized is that even if you and I, the pair of us, and some other people, if we were to able to help every single person with ADHD or ADHD-like symptoms live a better life, we'd only be able to get so far because the systems are still the same. Okay, it's the golden age for ADHD. Things are changing rapidly and it's becoming a world in which we can thrive more. But I really feel that with it, the system itself still needs to change. So ADHD, the struggles are real, but so are the strengths. So I really think that the DEI, the diversity, equality, inclusion programs that exists are great and also noble causes. And ADHD. So this is the thing. I'm not broken. I quickly, when I found out that it was ADHD, I quickly realized that I'm not broken. And I really quickly, attention, as soon as you say ADHD, it comes out with attention deficit. Okay, I'm broken. Hyperactivity disorder. Fuck, twice. Yeah, I've just said disorder. I'm broken. Yeah, exactly. Twice, every time I say ADHD, I say twice that I'm broken. And I think that's awful. I really think that's genuinely fucking terrible. And for me, I was like, I'm not broken. I'm great the way I am. And so I came up with, I'm always dreaming. So I don't have an attention deficit. I'm always dreaming. And I don't have a hyperactivity disorder. I'm highly driven. So I'm always dreaming, highly driven. And so what I want to do is get into the biggest organizations in the world, show them that ADHD is something amazing. I've got my story. Everybody else has got their advantages. And so rather than just accommodating people because it's the in thing at the moment, that's what we want to do, and then the politics change and it's, let's forget them again. It's like, no, let's use these people as a performance advantage. You know, then that's a win-win situation. The company benefits, the person benefits. So that's my goal, to really systemic change so that the world's, and that this, I really want to change the vocabulary. I really want to get this disorder. I want, this deficit?
I just that disorder. It's not even disability, right? It's not even attention deficit hyperactive disability. Disorder. It's like if you just think about
it's really bad. It's cruel. It's mean, and
it's eliteness. Also, you know, it's just it's tough. It's a tough label, but I think that's really great. You know, I also your approach of, from what I understand, also coming into like companies and businesses and helping them understand how to use the benefits of it, help the ADHD people, of course, feel more comfortable and express. But actually, there's a lot that they can offer, and particularly, you know, I know we talked about this before. The fact that right now, the way things are going with AI, you know, AI can take over so many things and many people are losing jobs. But what they don't have is the creativity, because what all these things are doing is in many cases, they're just rehashing other people's ideas and whatever's over there. And one of the benefits most people with ADHD is this creativity aspect, connecting dots, creating something, you know. And I love it that you're also focusing on a way to help ADHD people, you know, utilize certain talents that they have in order to improve companies and corporations, which are reaching so many more people, and can really design things, who have maybe more power and leverage and, you know, sway to create change on a much bigger level.
Exactly. So that's the start. Yeah, the big companies, the Googles, the Accentures of the world, get these companies to, I mean, a lot of them, they're doing a lot of great work already. They are. It's not like there's amazing programs there already. But then once these guys are on board, then, you know, these are the people with the power. These are the people with the money, the sway. Then there's the school system. And this is coming from a project world. You know, the school should be, you know, what skills do we learn in school that are of real value? There are some, I'm sure, but you know, there's so many more
stop
things.
And
you know,
think about it. There must be something. It's enough red flag as it is.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, you imagine a school system where people could come. Okay, somebody could come. So rather than teachers, perhaps mentors. You know, and so you come into school and it's like, okay, I don't have a project today. I've just finished this project, and it's like, okay, there's a list of projects, and it doesn't matter. It's not geography dependent. You know, it's the world we're living today, and using the technology. You could have a 6-year-old in Japan working with a 10-year-old in Brazil, working with a 14-year-old in Austria. You know, all putting their talents together, mentoring each other. I think this is really like a really key thing, because I think the best way to learn something yourself is to take what you know and pass it on as soon as possible. You know, so you're learning leadership, self-leadership. I think this is a key, is self-leadership. And yeah, I think that would be a much nicer school system. And that as well, doing it this way, it forces school to move with the rate of change, the rate of advancement in society in general. So you're not, the schools here, again, I hate to say it because I've got 3 kids that are in school, there's not that much relevance to the world we're living in today. You know, and you've got these organizations clawing on, oh, this is what we know, this is how we've always done it, sit down and behave. You know, I had the privilege of, my kids went to primary school, and it was kind of Montessori-like, if that means anything to anybody. Yeah. And so there was primary 1 to 4, all in one class. And there was no, it was called it's a long story, but anyway, all I'll say is here, the kids were given more freedom to work on what they were interested in that moment. So like for us with ADHD, ideal. And the years that my kids were there, I saw kids that would have been, you know, just like, we can forget you already. You know, there's like 6-year-olds getting a stamp on their heads already. Yeah, forget him. Yeah, but in this class it was different. You know, he was like, okay, this kid, he's not very good at reading, but he's amazing at maths, so he could thrive in maths. He'll catch up on the reading later. But there was I would say, if it was once I witnessed it, I would say it was luck. But I witnessed it in twice, because us parents were offered the opportunity to come in and do things for the class, and nobody really did anything, but I went in and volunteered and taught English for several years in the class. And twice in the morning, the teacher was otherwise engaged with visitors or whatever. And up until the time of the bell rang, the kids were in the class, it was all chaos and everybody running around being crazy. And then, without any teacher supervision, me just kind of being there, watching there, not taking any ownership of the situation, soon as the bell rang, the kids just stopped what they were doing, quickly, and we're speaking about 15 kids here, spoke to each other, decided what they wanted to work on, who they would best work with, grabbed the tables, pushed the tables together, went and grabbed their stuff, and they were working silently or quietly within 5 minutes. And I saw it twice. These were kids from 6 to 10 years old.
Because they gave them the personal agency. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
The personal agency. Amazing.
It's important. I think that's really a key, and what's important for many. I spent many years also in education as a teacher, and if you allow also kids to make their own mistakes and develop their own systems, I think it's such a valuable thing, and it's so much better than, everything, most of the systems out there of saying this is right, this is wrong, this is how you should do it,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and because I had the privilege of witnessing that's the goal. I know it can work. I know we can trust these children, and I know we can give them better skills. Skills. It's not knowledge. The knowledge age. What do we need to know anymore? What do we
You
need
have
to
everything in
exactly?
you have yeah. You have a PhD in your pocket, basically, on everything.
Exactly. Yeah. So we need to adapt, and we need to adapt fast. And we have the technology, and we have we can do it. I don't know how long it's going to take me to spread this message and get this going, because it's not expensive either.
Start speaking. Yeah, I think I just keep saying it. Say your truth. Say it. Say it boldly, and see what happens.
Exactly. Say it often. Say it boldly, and eventually the right people will hear it.
We'll hear it. Yeah, I agree, man. I think that's great. Yeah, and it's good. I think I see the time. I gotta run.
Yeah. I think it's a good positive note, a positive time to end the conversation. We went on for a little longer than planned, but that's good.
It's great. I think it's great. And I think, again, man, take the mission. And I want to say this to anyone. If you have a mission, you have a drive, something that you feel will help people, then just go with it, in that sense of allow the passion. I think a lot of people are taught to suppress these things. And, especially with ADHD. And I say, what happens if you go for it? Maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe you decide not to do it on the way, but you just go with it, turn into it, and see where it leads you. It usually leads to it usually leads to a good place, unless it's revenge. if you're angry and trying to revenge, I suggest double think that. But go with your passion.
Yeah. Awesome. And just very, very quickly, the half thing. We might get this wrong and we can cut it out if it doesn't work. But why is it always dreaming, highly driven? I'm trying to get a tradition going that the guests reframe ADHD, whatever they call that, reframing, a backronym or whatever it is. How would you, if you could take those four letters and give them a different vocabulary, what would you?
Well, it's interesting. I was thinking about this. About a year ago, I was thinking about what else would I use with those specific letters. I think now it still kind of fits what I think. I would say attention directing hyperactive differences. So that takes basically what we have and it just reshapes as a different type of brain. But I still feel that's very putting things in a box. You know what I mean? And I think that part of the issue is just trying to box in this type of brain. Which actually, why do we have to start labeling it? You can just, understand if you have different ADHD traits, for instance. It's important to know certain things, but to understand that actually the problem is not just with ADHD. I think it's a lot of the boxing in, And so for the sake of the exercise, attention, directing, hyperactive differences, but also make it your own. Is what I would say. Make it your own with the letters, without the letters. It's your brain, and you also don't have to label it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that would be the message to say, I don't know how to frame that into ADHD.
No, but it's also like this conversation we were just having here just now. Anybody could listen to it. You don't have to have ADHD to listen to this conversation. Maybe there's good things in this conversation for everyone.
I think there is because accepting your brain is universal.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Accept who you are. The more you start diving into these things, particularly nowadays because there are a lot of ADHD traits. You might not have ADHD brain, but you're still losing focus.
Yeah.
Because there's a collective fear going on. What's going on in society, which is very distracting and scared, and livelihood. What's going to happen in the future? On top of that, there's all these, social medias and everything screwing around with everyone's dopamine systems, designed by the best neuroscientists in the world to create addicts, basically.
Yeah.
So that's also like, I can't focus on anything because, you're sitting on the toilet 3 hours a day looking at TikTok. And your brain, you can't even remember the movie before. You're like, zzz. So naturally, it's going to be harder to focus on other things unless, So it's really about just diving into that. I lost my train of thought, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think we both have places we need to be right now.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah, this was awesome. Thank you very much, Jesse.
It was great. Thank you. This was so much fun, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. Let's do it again.